Hello my quilting friends! Leah Day here with a new quilting basics video. Today I want to teach you how to turn a circle applique, how to basically take a square of fabric and make it circular with a beautiful, perfect turned edge. So let's get started first creating a turning template together. The first step to creating our circle is to create a turning template. And this is part of the pattern, the Flower Festival Block 2 pattern. And I printed it out and double checked that that 1-inch square measures 1 inch. And I have printed this onto freezer paper, which will make creating this template much easier. So I'm taking a piece of plain freezer paper and I'm going to press this waxy side down onto my pressing board. I'm going to double layer this template. And what that's going to do is just simply make it thicker. It's going to be easier to turn my fabric, and it's going to last. I'll be able to use this multiple times. So press that freezer paper down in place, and then now I'm going to top it with my second piece of freezer paper and just give that a good press. You want to take your time pressing this simply because you don't want it to be wrinkly. You don't want there to be like air bubbles and stuff trapped in it. So take your time and make sure that these two pieces of freezer paper are pressed really nicely together. And I am always pressing waxy side down. The cool thing about freezer paper is that you can press it together like this, create a nice strong template, and then you'll still have a waxy side which will work with your fabric. So here we go. It's going to be really hot, so be careful. I'm going to pull it up carefully. And then now I'm going to cut this out with scissors, but I want to be real careful to cut smoothly. I don't want a jagged edge. So the first thing I do usually is just cut it out roughly, because with all of this paper all around it, it can be really challenging to cut smoothly. So I'm going to cut it out roughly. And now I'm going to really take my time. And I'm left-handed, so that sometimes makes a weird angle with my scissors. So I apologize if you can't see, but what I'm doing is I'm just taking very small snips and trying to be as smooth as possible, because when you're turning a circular edge, when you're turning any kind of edge, and you're working with freezer paper this way, basically whatever that edge is what you're going to get. So if you've got kind of jagged, crooked edges, then you're going to end up with a jagged, crooked edge in your fabric, because we're going to be pulling and turning against this pretty tight. So that's why you can see I'm going really slow and I'm being really careful, trying to stay right on that line and also trying to make it a smooth cut. You know, whenever I open the scissors and bite off a little bit more, I'm trying to make that just a real smooth transition. So there is our circle cutout, and you can see that nice stiff template that we've created. The cool thing is, if you're really wanting to create a template and do lots of things, then you can double, triple, quadruple layer freezer paper and make it super thick, and the thicker it is, the longer it lasts. I've had turning templates last through multiple quilts sometimes, so it really does work. So I'm going to take a square of fabric and I'm just centering up my turning template right in the middle, and I'm just going to press. It's a hot, dry iron I'm using. Pretty much always use a hot, dry iron, unless it's something very weird. Then I'm using steam, usually as a manipulation of the fabric. Unless it's something really weird like that, I'm always using a hot, dry iron. So now that's pressed in place. That's the cool thing. Waxy side down, you can see that template sticks to the fabric. So it's going to hold in place. It's not going to shift or wiggle, and I don't have to pin it. It's just sticking in place nicely. And now I can turn those edges against that template. So what I'm doing here is spraying a little bit of spray starch. This is my favorite brand of spray starch. And I'm spraying a little bit into a cup. And I'm going to grab a paintbrush. I know these are not your usual tools in your quilting area, but it really does work. So I just want to be able to control the amount of starch that I'm putting on the fabric. And I'm only going to paint on a little amount, and I'm working right on the edge of that template and just painting on a bit right there. So now I'm going to fold up the fabric and over the edge of the template. I'm going to grab my iron, and as I hit it with my iron, you can see I'm pulling up the fabric further down. So I'm slowly starting to make that turn. And I'm not worrying. I actually want to have lots of extra fabric out here. So I like it when I have extra. You know, I don't even care that it's a square. It doesn't matter. But the more fabric I have, the easier this will be to turn because it really heats up here. The biggest thing that I see whenever someone is having trouble turning an applique, the main reason is because they've cut the fabric too short and they haven't left themselves enough fabric to actually turn that edge. So you want to leave, whenever I cut a circle out, so this is a 3-inch circle, I cut out a square a full inch bigger. So this is a 4-inch square we've cut here. So now I'm working my way around that edge. I painted on a little bit more starch. And you can see I pull up the fabric against it and then hit it with the tip of my iron. Now it's interesting, my dad has been playing with this too, and he believes the hottest part of the iron is back here in the back, so he likes to use the back of the iron. I struggle with that angle because I can't see. Maybe if I was standing up I'd be able to see that angle better, but I like the tip of the iron because I can see what I'm doing and make sure I don't burn myself. That too. I don't really want to make a mistake and burn myself. So here we go. We're going to paint on a little bit more starch. And I'm just working my way around. This does require a little bit of patience. Obviously, it's a little slow. There are other methods, certainly. The one thing I would say is if you get impatient, please do not go all the way around with your starch, because the longer that your template edge is wet and has, you know, the starch next to it, the softer it's going to become. This is paper, you know, it might be magical freezer paper, but it's not that magical. So you really got to watch out for how much you paint at any given time. So I only paint about an inch, inch and a half at a time, and then I press it flat and dry, and that dries the edge. If you work all the way around at once, then basically that would be setting and wet and softening up the whole time that you're working. And probably by the time you got around to that edge, it would be too soft to turn against. You know, this depends on the template being rigid and holding its shape, so that way we can pull and tug that fabric against it and then get that nice creased turned edge. So a few other ways, a few other methods that you can do this. If you don't like this method or this just seems a little slow to you, and one method that I know is pretty popular is to do a big wide basting stitch. With, you know, you could do that by hand or by my machine, and you would then pull the stitches and kind of tighten them up. I don't like that simply because, you know, then I have to sit there and do the stitches. You know, for some reason I like painting starch more than I like that. So that's another method that you could certainly try. You could also just skip this altogether and fuse. You know, press some fusible web to your square of fabric and then cut out your 3-inch circle, and that would be fine too. There's no wrong way to do it, there's certainly lots of methods open to you when it comes to creating circle appliques. So there we go. That is what you're looking for. You want the whole edge nicely turned. If you flip it over, you can see beautiful circular shape. That looks great. So now I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to trim this down to about 1/4 of an inch. Might be a little bit bigger, might be a little smaller. I'm not going to take a ruler to it. I'm just trimming it down by eye. And again, you want this to be relatively smooth, so take your time. No jagged edges. Okay, there we go. And now I'm going to give this one final press, because when you have all that extra fabric in there, it's sometimes hard to get it totally flat. So I sometimes just drag my iron across it like that, and then I'll flip the whole thing over and give it a press from the right side. Now if you're worried about something going shiny, grab a little piece of fabric, you know, some scrap fabric, put it over the top, and that will stop it from going shiny. Okay, there we go. And now, ooh, that's hot. I'm going to peel away that template and just gently pull that away, and you can see how easily that comes out, and you can definitely use this again, so save it, you could use that again. And now I'm going to turn these edges back inside and give it another press. Now that it has the template out of it, it's just the fabric and the starch holding its shape. And so then I'll flip it over, make sure that everything's laying down nice and flat, and give it one more press. So as you can see, this is a method that creates beautifully turned, perfect circle appliques, and you can do this in all shapes and sizes. Big circles, small circles, it doesn't matter. Use freezer paper, double it, create a template, and then paint on starch carefully and turn those edges, and you're leaving yourself a nice wide seam allowance, a nice wide edge around that fabric. It'll be super easy to turn. So that's it for this video. I really hope that you enjoyed learning how to make applique circles with me today. If you have any questions about this process, please ask in the comments below. And if you have a method that you like, that you think works better, you can share that there too. I'd love to know how you make applique circles. If you enjoyed this video, please share it with your friends and subscribe to our channel on YouTube so you don't miss out on the next quilting video we have coming out soon. Until next time, let's go quilt.